What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about two different massive spoilers for Scream 5. So I want to start it off by, acknowledging it, by saying it out loud so you guys know. I know there's a lot of people that don't want to be spoiled, so I'm giving you guys all the warning. There's not going to be any spoilers in the title or thumbnail, but I want to talk about a spoiler, a big one, that was posted in a comment of one of my videos, okay? Now, this was not, I'm not blaming this person. I'm not going after this person. This person took it from a 4chan leak that seems pretty good. The biggest thing I want to get through to you guys with this is these two leaks are very detailed. They're very seemingly, like, they sound right, and they also kind of fill in the gaps of each other. However, then there's the confusion of, some people say that none of it's true, that all of this stuff is fake, and I want to go over that as well. So it's going to be a bigger discussion in this video. I kind of walked into it. It's too late for me to come back from it now if this ends up happening, and that's okay. I've sacrificed myself for the greater good. But anyway, if you do not care about spoilers and you're good to go, let's just jump into it. So this was again a post on one of my videos, but it comes from 4chan. I know how sketchy, and 4chan is not the most reliable. However, sometimes they do get things right, and that is important to say out loud. Plot leak. Movie begins with Ghostface attacking Tara, Jenna Ortega, and leaving her for death, but she actually survives. Tara's estranged sister, Sam, Melissa Barrera, returns to Woodsboro with her boyfriend Richie, Jack Quaid, to care for her. Dewey is retired as sheriff and has been replaced by Judy Hicks, Marley Shelton. He is close to Hicks's teenage son, Wes, Dylan Minnette, who's also a friend with Tara. After Ghostface lures Hicks into a trap and kills her in broad daylight, Dewey teaches Wes the rules of survival and calls Sidney and Gail back to deal with the new killer. Sidney is married and living in Chicago, while Gail returned to LA after separating from Dewey. Ghostface targets Tara at the hospital. Dewey figures this out and manages to save her, but Ghostface kills him, causing Sidney and Gail to swear revenge. Sam, Sidney, and Gail investigate Tara's friends, which includes Wes, Tara's best friend Amber, Randy's nephew and niece Chad and Mindy, and Chad's girlfriend Liv. There's also Vince, a local punk who stalks Liv. They figure out that the new Ghostface is following up the original killings, and all his targets have connections to the original victims, including Sam, who is the secret illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis. Ghostface kills Vince outside a bar, kills Chad at his house using a geolocation app to set a trap, and later wounds Mindy and kills Wes and Liv during a part at Stu Macher's house, where Liv and her family now live. The killers are Richie and Amber. All characters serve as credible suspects up until the finale, with Liv as the main red herring since she's an edgy art chick. The killers are Richie and Amber, who are secretly lovers obsessed with the original killings and eager to reimagine them for a new generation. Amber is the mastermind and Richie is the muscle. He wants to become famous, but Amber actually plans to frame Sam for the killings to keep the legacy of Billy Loomis alive. Sidney and Gail actually suspect Sam until a recovered Tara provides them a clue that leads them to realize it was Amber and Richie all along. They go to Liv's house just in time to save Sam, who stabs Richie, while Sidney sets Amber on fire. Similar in tone to the original movie, with more horror and less comedy, the meta commentary is more subdued and mostly contained to discussing requels, movies that ignore the bad sequels and follow up directly from the classic original, like 2018's Halloween. There's a gag of Tara scoffing at Ghostface's slasher trivia because she is elevated art house horror, or she likes elevated art house horror like Hereditary and Midsommar. In the end, Amber makes a speech about how Sidney is no longer relevant now that there is a new generation, with Sidney firing back that there will always be her story, and she sets the rules. Mindy is apparently this movie's Dewey. She died in the original cut, but test audiences like her too much, so they reshoot the ending to have her survive. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff that sounds good there. There's also some things, hopefully, that you start to scratch your head and question a little bit, which I don't blame you. So let's read this other one. And this is interesting because this was on Reddit, and this was posted back 3 months ago, I believe in August, and it says, Scream 2022, genuine spoilers. I have no interest in telling you how I know this, so you just have to take this post for what it is. Firstly, no Selena Gomez. Let's put that rumor to rest. Yes, the opening kill is an homage to Casey Steve scene. It's very good and is similar in spirit, Home Invasion, but do not expect a like for like. No cheap stab gimmicks either, for what it's worth. Tara survives an early attack and is framed as the final girl. Her mother, traveling for work, is missing. Sounds familiar. Sam comes back to Woodsboro to take care of Tara, and that's when stuff ramps up. They have a very sisterly bond, but there's tension around why Sam left so suddenly. When she did, Tara won't drop it, and Sam won't address it. Tara's friend group is a great mix of characters, and they have really fun chemistry. You feel it when they're killed. There's really only one of them I don't like, but their kill scene is compensated. They're very protective of Tara. Going into the final act, we're drip-fed suspicion that Sam could be Ghostface. The timing and the opportunity stacks. And we get a slam dunk twist that her father is Hank Loomis. She's Billy's sister, conceived shortly before the original murders, but their mother hid it to protect her. Sam being the killer is a fake out, an effective one, and her fate is single-handedly saved by Sid in a situation where Sid has every reason not to trust her. There's a really nice moment where Sid kind of hands the baton to Sam. Sam is our new final girl. The final killer is revealed. I'm not going to share, sorry, but it's well done. Tara isn't the final girl. She was meant to lure Sam back to town and frame her as the successor of her brother. But when that plan fails, thanks to Sid, the killer has to improvise. I'm also not going to reveal the fate of the OG3, but I will say that Gale and Dewey have a great buddy cop moment, reminiscent of Scream 2. And while Sydney isn't the focus of the plot, she's instrumental in how it plays out. I fully expect this to be the final appearance in the franchise for all three characters, regardless of their respective fates. I'm actually okay with that. Ghostface's mask flashes at the start of the end credits. If you know, you know. So the interesting thing is there's a lot, in my opinion, a lot of crossover between the two. Another thing to keep in mind is the one I just read, the second one. While less detailed, I would argue it's less detailed, and it says some things, but then they try to, keep things back just because obviously maybe they just don't want to spoil it or whatever. But it came out before the trailer. Whereas this new one came out after the trailer. So it's a lot easier, I think, and I will say this, to fill in the gaps, because what the first one I read seems to indicate is it does look like they're going based off of the trailer in terms of order, in terms of placing scenes, which we've done, and kind of adding what it seems like other people have said into the mix. Now, I'm not discrediting either of them. Again, there are similarities. The no Selena Gomez thing, they can both, it seems like, relate to. The Tara thing, surviving. Now, again, I think it's more credible for the second one. Also, Sam coming back and dealing with her, but there's something going on there, which again is mentioned in both of them. Now, that's another problem, though, is that this first one, the one that was on my channel, that was also on the 4chan, they could have just taken, that old one and put it in. There are major differences too. The newer one, the 4chan one, says that Sam is Billy Loomis's daughter, whereas the older one says that basically they're brother sister, and that the father, Billy's father, Hank Loomis, that's the relation between them. So that's obviously much different, and both cannot be correct, and that's a really big thing. The newer one talks about obviously Dewey being killed, which definitely, again, and the newer one goes based more off of the trailer. One thing that I have a question of, and I read it a couple times, and actually, weirdly enough, reading it now for you guys is where it kind of clicks. So they talk about, Ghostface kills Judy Hicks. Now, that's been a rumor for a long time, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Dewey teaches Wes the rules of survival and calls Sydney and Gale back to deal with the new killer. So if that's true, then we're saying, the Judy stuff with her screaming in the car, the promotional picture of her, walking in her house with a knife. So that happens. She dies. Wes lives. Then they have that couch scene, right, where Dewey says, there are rules, to surviving it. They do that, and then Dewey calls Sydney and Gale. But the weird thing is, afterwards, once it says that Dewey dies, they figure out Ghostface is following up on the original killings. And this is after they they say investigate Tara's friends, which is Wes, Amber, Chad, Mindy, Liv. Sam and Richie, I guess, aren't necessarily mentioned there, but obviously that's part of it. And Vince. And then it goes again to say, that they figure out that Ghostface is following up on the original killings, and all his targets have connections to the original victims. But, I know the trailer isn't exactly scene for scene and in perfect order, but doesn't that part get said on the couch as well? I feel like when Dewey's saying there's rules to surviving it, that's the same scene as Sam saying, and even if it's not, when Sam is saying the killing or the killers or the killings have relation to the original, like Dewey's right there. So that can't happen after he dies because so it's a little out of place. I'm also really, I guess, confused about Vince's role, because it seems like he dies very, very early, but then sometimes it seems like he doesn't die early. So I think I'll probably make a video on him very, very soon, because I'm kind of confused on that character just in general. But it's interesting. You know, and even the newer one kind of just like jumps. Like once it gets to the ending, boy, it does it fast. There's really no, you know, issues. Like they find out that it's Richie and Amber. They make it to the house. They, you know, Melissa Barrera's character, right, Sam, she like just takes out Richie on her own, which we do see her stabbing somebody in the trailer, and it does kind of look like Richie, so you could take that for what you will. You know, she takes him out, you know, easy peasy, and then Sydney just lights Amber on fire, and like it's just over. So that's, you know, like that's very easy, and I don't know. I really don't know. Also, I don't necessarily like if they discuss that they ignore the bad sequels and follow up directly from the classic. I get Scream 1 is the best one, but I think 4 is probably the second best one. 2's really good. 3's got problems, but 3's the ending of the trilogy. I don't really think it's, well, you know, making fun of yourself, you got to be able to do it, so I guess it's okay, but I don't necessarily love that. And then the older one final thing I do want to focus on there, you know, when they talk about, you know, I guess they pump up the whole Sydney thing. Sydney isn't the focus of the plot. That's fine. I fully expect this to be the final appearance in the franchise for all 3 characters, and I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it being the final appearance for all. Now, if Dewey dies, obviously, I'm fine with that. If, even for Gail, I think she would come back if that's the thing. Anybody that survives this, I think, is definitely fair game to, you know, to do it. I also saw in one leak, I don't know where necessarily it is, that the movie kind of wraps up nicely. Like it's not a cliffhanger. It's not something that absolutely opens the door for future ones, but you can, like, if you wanted to. So with that being said, really anybody that survives is always in play. I know you don't want to every time make Sydney the focus and make the killers attached to her, and that's fine. I'm not asking for that. But if she survives, it's just a personal opinion in my mind that, you know, this would be the last one and she wouldn't be in any future ones, because if she does live, as long as Neve Campbell wants to, that in my opinion is the biggest one. If she's able to, if there's a good enough reason to bring her in to help out or whatever, you can always, you know, bring her back, because I think as long as there's people wearing the Ghostface costume with the, you know, Roger L. Jackson voice, there's always going to be an opportunity to bring these, you know, these originals back, anyone that survives, if they want to be in it. So it's interesting. I mean, I really, I don't know. I ran into the first one. I found the second one because it's like, now I need to kind of like, I would like to say that I didn't ask to be spoiled for the entire movie, but I accidentally read, you know, I started reading, and at that point you're already in. And then after that I was like, well, I need to double check, like, has anybody else said stuff that person has said? And I stumbled upon this other one. But again, there's still some weird things. Like, I know there's been talk about Vince being maybe a relationship to Stu. We know that Liv probably lives in the house, Stu's house. So if, you know, Vince is the nephew, then like that kind of makes sense. Maybe he's stalking her because she lives there, but like he has no ill intent towards her. So there's definitely more there, and the ending seems way too straightforward personally in both of them, but it's also because they're not being very specific. So we'll have to see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think about all of it, about Sydney, about, you know, the killers, about how it gets there, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all of these videos go up. If you guys want to follow me over on Twitter or subscribe to my second channel or support us on Patreon or YouTube memberships, links for all of them are in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next Scream video.